Okay, any other questions to Ryan at this point? Or I think you want to look at the proposal in front of us. Are there, what questions do you have to Ryan and to Bill Young here on this? And what are some of your questions, thoughts, concerns, or what do you have anything you would like
Sure.
to add? Good. Could you step up?
Yeah, well,
Tell us what you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. This is an unusual piece of property. Mrs. Gordon lost her husband who owned it. He had been, or someone had been operating a horse stable there. And unfortunately, Mr. Gordon passed away approximately a year ago. She decided that it was no longer viable for her to be in the horse business. And the horse thing has changed, I think it's fair to say. So a decision was made some time ago to buy her, to remove the buildings. The liability insurance alone and property taxes that she's been paying, they're pretty substantial. So she made the decision some time ago to eventually take down the blinds. Chad and I got interested in this property as a potential infill development in Kalona to build residential homes on. And the first proposal that we had to the city, I think Larry Christensen has been just a godsend in this whole process. He's helped a great deal and very, very good. We're lucky to have him. Designed a subdivision that would have a street through the middle of it. The infrastructure costs alone, we're going to, just for the street, sewer, and the water, it's going to be well in excess of $300,000. Plus, we would have had to have come to the city council and asked for a variance for setback on each and every lot, because the lots would have been so small that even a small home would not have fit on those lots to still have enough side yard setback and backyard setback. So back to the drawing board, and this is what we came up with to be able to use the property and try to develop this. The way I see TIF is a public-private partnership. I think it's fair to say that the majority of developers like myself, this is a very high-risk business. The majority of us, without some incentive, wouldn't do this. There's other ways to earn a living. This particular property in Kalona, with 7 lots, is going to cost right at $300,000. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to see that there's not a lot of money in this without a partnership with the city to help us. The partnership arrangement that I understand is that Chad and I put up the money, we take the risk, we build the infrastructure, which we eventually end up giving to the city, and we hope that we're successful when we build homes here that eventually become taxable and create a revenue stream for the city and for the school district and for the county. If we're not successful, we can't sell lots, we can't build homes, we can't sell the homes that we build. You can see that it can be, with the money that we're talking about here, there's not a lot of profit in this. So the alternative is to let it sit empty, or maybe put one house on it. And we've had a conversation with the city about that, and I think the city has suggested to us that that would not be their desired result. They'd rather see something more than just one house on 3.5 acres.
Now, I'll speak to that just a little bit. As we talk planning and zoning, we talk some of those things. Land use is something that was brought up with this particular parcel, and the fact that it's not in our best interest to have one home there just due to the usage. So that's how that comment was derived from.
So, our request to you is that we would ask for an allocation out of future tax proceeds that without this development you're not going to get anyway, that we would be allowed to share in that proceeds to build the infrastructure, to put up the houses and to sell them. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
And
this
the question I
information
had
you'd like
was
to have?
simply, is expected to be developed before December 31st of this year.
Well, for the infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I know, you're gonna build 7 houses.
No.
Really not.
But, now when it says is expected to be, is that a process that you're going at all at once?
Yes.
Or just as you have buyers for
No.
individual lots at a time?
Before we can even get a lot ready to sell, to build on, got to put in a sewer. We have to put in a pretty substantial storm detention situation at the south edge of the property that was approved by the city engineer to prevent overflow of water to the neighbors to the south. I think there's a woman that lives in the corner that is, poor thing, and she spent a lot of money. And so we're going to try to alleviate that. We've designed an underground piping system to take sheet water off the surface and into the storm system, and then discharge it into your stormwater system that goes into the street. There'll be a sewer, there'll be water lines, there'll be electrical lines that will be buried. I think and there'll be a lot of dirt work to be done. So hopefully, I think from a practical standpoint, if you folks agree with us that this is a good project and a good partnership, and you recommend that we do get an allocation for TIF, and the city council approves it, I think it's probably a month or so away, we hope to have this done probably yet this spring, and then have the property ready to start building homes on this summer. They just asked for a date that we expected to be done by, and I want to be a little bit conservative. That's where that date came from.
Okay, well, that answers my question. I was more interested if you were going to do it all the site and...
Whole site has to be done at once, in
infrastructure
other words, we
has to
wouldn't be able to, it's pretty much you got to put it all in because you're not going to have half of the sewer line going out in the middle. It's got to go all at once.
Are you going to develop it? Are you going to then sell the lots, or are you going to?
Don't know yet. Chad has talked about, and that's the reason I partnered with him. We might sell lots, or we might have Chad build spec homes there.
Or in combination?
Or a combination.
Okay.
I don't know. We haven't, a lot of it's going to depend upon what we do, is going to depend upon what you decide to do. We may go to Plan B if you folks decide that this isn't worthy of the TIF.
Is this discussion where public, can I ask?
Yes,
Can you tell me other developments apart from your developments in Kalona, like Creekside, where you've received TIF funding and they wouldn't have gone forward otherwise?
No.
Any?
This is the only place.
None for like Liberty Center? You got no TIF for that?
No. But the
That
city,
kind of.
well, we have a little different economic situation in North Liberty. I'm not sure exactly how many homes sold here in Kalona in the last, every year. I think that the volume, the velocity of the market in North Liberty is different than it is in Kalona.
Yeah, what I'm pointing out though is your statement that really developers wouldn't develop without TIF
It's-
funding is not quite right.
Well,
And
in Kalona,
economists
Iowa,
who
this
studied
developer
it
will
say it's
not.
not quite right.
In Kalona, Iowa, this
Maybe there are
developer
other
will not.
developers, you
And
know?
I think that there's some evidence of some other developers in Kalona
This,
that would.
this is a location, this is a prime location, like you say, it's an infill development in a very nice area, close to schools. You got assessed values along 10th Street that are comparable to the 225K you're proposing. The whole houses along J Avenue also are high-end houses. And
Yes, ma'am,
when-
do the math. You've got $300,000 of infrastructure, you divide that by 7 lots, you've got less than $45,000 per prop to break even.
But the point is,
To
if
break
you don't
even.
have to give away $105,000 in tax money, why do it? This is a prime development area. I don't think it needs TIF. It's not the kind of development that TIF was designed to do.
I respect
Let me
your-
read you something. This is from a guy, research director for the Iowa Policy Project, that has studied TIFs statewide, Peter Fisher. And he's also studied it specifically in Johnson County. And he's proposed, and this is an article written last month, February 5th. He's proposing that there are at least 5 ways TIF has gone wrong in Iowa, and it's gone kind of haywire in Iowa. He says, there are several ways tax increment financing can go wrong, and here's the 4th way. The 4th way is when TIF incentives are provided to a project that would have proceeded anyway, without incentives. Middle and upper income residential subdivisions do not need incentives and should not get them. That's also echoed by Dr. Swenson at Iowa State, the economist, who has studied TIF for probably more than a decade, if not, well, at least a decade, if not more. So what you're saying is simply not true. Developers develop all the time without TIF subsidies, and particularly developers who are apt to see very good profits from middle and upper income subdivisions. And this particular one is an infill subdivision, like you say.
Ma'am,
It's
can you
nestled
show
in
me
the
where
middle
there's
of
been
the
any
neighborhood.
developments in Kalona that have been done without a TIF?
Well, because personally, I believe
Can you
it's
share
been a
with me
mistake.
where there have
It's
been
been a
any
mistake,
developments, any
but there doesn't
developers?
need to be a repetition of that mistake.
I think we agree to disagree.
Yeah, well, yeah, and this is important.